What's up, guys? We are back with another Figura Obscura review, and this is one of the 2024 retailer exclusives. We're taking a look at the repaint of the Mask of the Red Death. Now, just like with every other Figura Obscura, you get a premium box despite the fact that this is a retailer exclusive. Still comes in that same familiar packaging, which means you get the little chipboard outer sleeve, which I really love these. You know, it definitely adds to the, I guess, the presentation factor of Figura Obscura. So you've got, Nate Barch's artwork all over this thing. You've got a write-up on it. The inside's really cool. It's got reference to the colors that are in the rooms inside the story. You've got all the guests here inside the inner workings of the packaging, which is really cool. It's very premium. As usual, it's still got the magnetic clasp, so you can put the box inside. And then you've actually, of course, got your box, which has more artwork on it. Figure there in the window, and you've got more of Nate Barch's artwork that wraps around the front and the back and the spines, and kind of gives it a very, I don't know, very spooky vibe. So yeah, let's do it. Let's pull them out and take a look. And here we go, out of the package, our retailer exclusive Black Robe Mask of the Red Death. So this guy is not just a different set of robes. There is other stuff that's been changed. That would have been the easy way out. The paint on this guy is different. The color scheme has been changed up. And I think for the better, well, maybe not necessarily for the better, but for the betterment of this release, so that he does have a lot more going for him, especially if you've got the first one and you want to maybe mix and match parts. So as far as showcasing articulation and what he can do, I'm going to take all this stuff off of him because you can't see, 80% of the figure like this. So we'll get him mostly naked and then see what he can do. So here he is without the robes on, so we can kind of get an idea of exactly what's going on underneath there when we move him around. To start with, we've got a head that can look up really good, so he has a hinged neck peg. He doesn't have a separate neck, but he has the hinged ball peg on there, and the first one did as well. You go down like super far to a almost unnecessary degree. You've got really good tilt side to side. You've got full rotation. The mask itself does not really move. You can sort of like shimmy it up to have it sort of open a little bit, but it doesn't necessarily move on its own. It's pegged into both sides of the head, and you can kind of, fudge it around a little bit. Arms are going to go out at the shoulder. Mine are really tight, so watch out. You've got swivel, of course. We've got single jointed, really good range on these arms, like super crazy range on how these were sculpted. So nice. You've got rotation there also. We've got hinges. We've got swivel at the wrist, of course. He's a weird kind of figure. This is very much like in between a 1.0 and a 2.0 figure because he's super slim, but he doesn't have a diaphragm cut. So he's got the standard ball peg. So he goes forward really nice. Not much backward though, and not much shimmy side to side, but you do have full rotation there. Legs are going to go out. The wraps are going to get in the way on his hips moving all the way out and forward. So you've got to contend with that backwards as well. You've got your thigh twist, single jointed, swiveling knee, and then you've got swivel at the top of the ankle. You've got really good rocker, nothing in the way there, and then you've got hinges. So this guy does have incredible range. Again, you just can't really see it until you get him undressed. But this is a great example of the path forward when it comes to the updated articulation that we started seeing, last year, really. This was one of the examples of that updated articulation that we've seen the Horsemen move forward throughout the various lines up till now. Now, as far as the overall look and feel, this guy he's almost kind of difficult to talk about because there is a lot going on, but at the same time, when he's fully covered in the robes, there's just not a lot to talk about. He is covered in fabric. So before we get him naked again to kind of talk about it, at least let's talk about what he does come with, because he does have a lot of soft goods. There is a tremendous amount of wired fabric here. So you've got this hooded piece, which is connected to the underrobe. So this piece here, this gray piece, is not wired. That's just sort of his overall clothing. This piece is connected to it, and this has 3 little spindly doodads that come off of him, and these are all wired as well. So you can get them, up under the arms, maybe, stuff like this, and have them sort of, billowing back or flying backwards or something like that. So you've got various things that you can do to sort of cinch this around his head. But then you've also got this piece here, which is kind of almost like a toga type of thing. So it goes over his shoulder, and then you've got this hole here where his arm comes through. It's honestly a pretty weird sort of soft goods. It's definitely unique and very different from anything else I think I've gotten on a figure. It is very specific to this guy, but this is also wired, and you've got the ability to sort of get that up and out of his way, because there's a lot on him. It doesn't necessarily impede his articulation in any way. It's just going to cover the entirety of the figure. It doesn't really look like there's a lot of action capable of going on there. Here he is next to the first release. So this is our Mask of the Red Death in the standard red robes. And you could see there's still not a lot to really talk about that's different. One's black and one is red. What's really, really different is when you get them, you know, undressed, and we'll see exactly how different they are. But they still have the same type of soft goods. He's still got the overall hood, he's got the toga piece, and he's got that undersuit as well. But they really did just do a complete palette shift on this guy, and it will be very obvious when we get them both undressed, I say. I'm talking about getting things naked quite a lot in this video, but it's imperative to sort of showcase exactly what mix of parts you've got, what you're capable of doing, and exactly how much has truly been changed between these two releases. And then here they are now without their robes on for a really good comparison of what is changed and what's different between the two. And it's obvious when you get them right next to each other what's different, but there's also a lot more that I think is readily visible on the new figure compared to the old. So this guy is so black that on some of this, like, you can't see some of how gaunt and emaciated he is. Some of this decayed flesh that's on his leg is obviously there, but it's not quite as readily noticeable as it is on our new figures. So this new one, all of the black parts on this guy have been changed to red, save for a few little things, like the lower jaw has not been changed. Obviously, the mask isn't black, for example, things like that. But then even the wrap. So this little, you know, his dirty diaper that he's got here, whatever we want to call it, this is red, it's gray now. And then his red hand is now black. So they did exactly that. They just flipped things. But you can easily see just how gross and sunken in and emaciated this figure is because of the red with a black wash on top of it. So you can more easily see a lot of this rotted flesh. You can see just how gaunt he is. You can see the striations and the rib cage on that torso a lot more easily as well. Everything on this figure, though, like, this way is honestly my preferred look for this figure, because I just love looking at how gross and how detailed this is. I love the soft goods because they absolutely sell the idea of what this figure is supposed to be and where he comes from. But this is such a cool body, and I love having this in red. If anything, I kind of wish I had more of this one. I've got a couple of this guy, but I kind of wish I had more, because this would make a great zombie style of figure, to just have like a legion of zombies on your shelf. Like, you can see all of the bones, you can see the spine coming through the back, you can see the rib cage back there, the whole 9 yards. And then of course we've got our mask, which still looks terrific. It's got little red highlights on it. It's not quite as highlighted on the new one as it is on the old. Some of these raised details have a very bright red look to them, and they're brighter on this one, but they aren't quite as bright. And then I'm going to take the mask off here just so you can see it. And that's what's inside, which is just this gaping maw that's inside there. So you've got this huge void of rotting flesh on the inside. And again, this has been changed up to being a red head, but it's got a ton of black wash on it. But the inside of that face and mouth and everything, whatever you want to call it, the inside of that head is still black. What's different, though, is that the teeth are more whitely painted this time around, so they're kind of gray and grimy on this one, but they're not quite pearly whites, but they're definitely whiter on the new figure. So I am a huge fan of this one. This body is really well done. Like, the sculpt, the details on it, it's something that you truly cannot appreciate with the robes on him. You've got to get him fully naked again. I'm going to say it one more time. Many times I'm going to talk about this naked action figure. But you've really got to get him completely undressed to really appreciate exactly how much sculpt and detail and paintwork has been poured into this figure to then ultimately cover him with a bunch of fabric. But there's so much potential in this body, especially if you have both, because now, you know, you could take this one, take his arm and put it on this one, swap those colors around a little bit, maybe try to mix and match to have a different style of Mask of the Red Death, depending on, I guess, your preferred color scheme. Now, as far as accessories goes, Mask of the Red Death has a lot, but he sort of doesn't at the same time. There's not a lot in terms of piece count here, but there is a lot of plastic. And this is one of the figure releases where I feel like the accessories are either something you really love or something you don't care about at all. And I'm kind of in the camp that doesn't really care about a lot of them, because I don't do diorama kind of stuff. I'm obviously not a toy photographer of any real talent, right? That's not my thing. I don't build dioramas. I don't do that kind of stuff. So stuff like the clock, I think it's really cool, but it's not something I'm necessarily over the moon about. As far as stuff that goes along with the figure itself, you got some hands and we've got a weapon. So we do have style posy hands on him in the box, like sort of gesturing hands. He's got clawing hands on him. You've got two sets of gripping hands. You've got vertical and then you've got lateral, horizontal. They of course are colored appropriately. So reds are for the left side, blacks are for the right. And then you've got the little dagger here. I almost forgot he included this and almost threw this away before I realized I was missing something. So be careful. It's not exactly hidden. I just wasn't paying attention. You've got a silver blade, gold hilt with a green handle. This is a different color than what we got with the first release. And then, of course, we've got the clock. Like I said, this isn't necessarily a thing that's for me. Like, I don't do anything with this kind of stuff. You're not going to see the clock likely in any display that I make. It's just not my thing. That said, it's amazing. Like, for a clock that's scaled to action figures, you really can't ask for much more than this. And it's cool that they do include this stuff because, of course, it's part of the story. And that's what they're trying to do here. They're trying to sell a moment in the story to set a scene. And I really like this. It is incredibly well done. It's very ornate. You've got the raven up here at the top. You know, all the front fascia and everything is separate. So you put it together a little bit, but the paint is well done. The sculpt is incredibly intricate, obviously. There is more gold on it this time around. Like this dude down here on the bottom, I don't believe he was gold the first time. The skeletal feet weren't gold either, that kind of stuff. And then you've also got the little blood thing as well. So this can be used as either a stand for the clock because it has 4 pegs on it and the clock can go on top of it and having the blood come out, or you can use it as a stand for the Mask of the Red Death himself, which I think is really cool. I do really like this. I've used it with other figures like Vorgus Vermilius. I think I used it on the second one in his review, I believe. But this is a really cool piece. It obviously is diorama-esque as well, but it's not necessarily as overt as the clock. So, you know, your mileage may vary on whether or not some of this stuff truly matters, but I do like the idea of having this complete package. While this thing isn't necessarily something I'm going to do a whole lot with, I cannot, you know, undersell how well made it is or how nice it looks. And of course, it goes perfectly with this figure. So overall, this Mask of the Red Death is really doing it for me. Mostly it's because of what's going on with the actual base body. The articulation on this figure is terrific. I love seeing some of these upcoming changes in a current figure. You know, we're going to see a lot of these articulation improvements really start to hit us when we get the Necronominus wave, and this is a taste of that. But it's also the change of base color on this figure that really makes him seem that much more disgusting to me. The red color scheme with a black wash on it really accentuates just how much detail is crammed into this figure. The robes are really nice in black in particular, and despite how weird they are, I mean, I can't say it enough. The robes on this figure, they are very weird. It's an odd layout, it's an odd cut of fabric. It's just different and unique, but it works really well here. And if you're into dioramas, if you're into big set pieces, the clock, the blood definitely adds on to this figure. It's not necessarily something I'm that big into, but I can't deny how well done every aspect of this figure is. So that's going to do it for this look at the Figura Obscura Mask of the Red Death Black Robe version. Let me know what you guys think. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and share, and until next time.